My name is Pamela Psihogios. I live in Montreal, born and raised. I'm currently a full-time MBA student at Concordia University. I'm in my last semester, and I'm also working full-time in consulting. Right before my MBA, I was actually working for a small business in the food service industry. It was a family-owned business, and it was really supposed to be first a human resources job, but I slowly ended up taking on a bit more responsibility than intended and was managing, kind of doing everything from A to Z, purchasing, payroll, things like that. It was a really wonderful opportunity, and it was a great experience, and that was for about 2.5 years. And before that, I was right out of my undergrad, having played hockey, varsity hockey at McGill during my studies at McGill. The reason I decided to pursue my MBA was because in the experience that I had working in the food service industry, the responsibilities that I had started to spark an interest that was beyond just human resources. So I thought maybe there was something else there that I hadn't quite explored yet. And that made me want to see what the MBA was about. And once I explored what that was and did a bit more research, I felt that that was something that really aligned with what my interests were at that time. The reason I chose to do my MBA at Concordia University it's actually a nice little story. I was lucky enough to be in my recruitment stage pre-pandemic. So got to meet people in person, go to MBA events, and there were a few different events that I had attended. One was specifically at Concordia. It was a bit smaller, got to meet a few people there and just, network a little bit. And that was really nice. It was intimate. People were very kind. And then I was able to also go to a larger scale event with multiple MBA schools. And to be completely honest, out of all of the schools that I had interacted with, there was just something special about Concordia. The people were just, not to say the others weren't warm, but there was a warmth, there was this welcoming feeling that I didn't quite have at the other schools. And so that was really what ultimately made me decide to do that and go to Concordia. So I would say that there's a lot more diversity than I had initially expected. You don't really know what to expect either when you're completely virtual, right? I started virtually. I have not yet done a class in person, though I think it's starting next week. But I would say that there were more women than I had anticipated. I know that, when I've spoken to people about MBAs, I heard a lot of there being mostly men. And there are quite a few women in the program. So that was something that was pleasantly surprising. And people from all over. We have people from all Europe. We have people who are local, people from India, just all over. And it's really nice to see that diversity, because that was also something that was quite important to me going into the experience. There's a great career development program at Concordia. And so I was in contact with them quite a bit throughout the beginning because I was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I also heard a lot about case competitions going into the program. And so that was something that I really became involved in, and something I'm very, very happy I became involved in, because that sort of opened up this interest of the consulting world that I had really barely scratched the surface on. And so in going into case competitions and having a few electives that were consulting related, I ended up applying to a few internships that I wanted to explore last summer. And that ended up having an opportunity there for a full-time position. So I think right now, not to say that I don't have an interest to go back into the food service industry, I actually have a very fond appreciation for it, having experienced that firsthand and seeing, the successes and the struggles of working in a small business, and even just the difficulties that restaurants have experienced now during the pandemic. It's been very, very devastating. So there is an interest there for sure. But right now, my experience at Concordia and where I'm at has has really brought interest into consulting. And specifically, I'm doing change management consulting, which is very people oriented. And I think it's a nice, best of both worlds, because I have my HR background and the restaurant background, which is more of a business experience, and now kind of merging into something different that complements both of those, I think was really quite nice. And I'm really happy about that. Consulting is such a broad term as well, right? When you hear consulting, you don't really know what exactly it is. And there's so many different things. People can consult in accounting, they can consult in finance. And so with change management being very people-oriented and very people-centric, it's now, I would say, relevant more than ever. We help specifically in the company that I work for. There is a focus on digital transformation. So you can imagine during a pandemic now where everyone has gone virtual and people don't have necessarily offices anymore, the use of technology is just more than ever before. So we help people navigate these changes, the people changes, when a company is undergoing some technological change, whether it's an implementation of a new software or using some new piece of technology that's replacing manual processes. That's what we do. We help on the human side, the things that maybe are overlooked that you wouldn't necessarily think. People need to be communicated, these changes. So that's really what I've been doing with change management, and I think it's something that I didn't really know a whole lot about before getting into it. And now that I'm into it, it's kind of like this, had like an epiphany, like this just, it's amazing to see that this exists and how important it is and how it's growing as well. I would say that obviously no one was prepared for this, right? It was a challenge, I think, across the board, across the world. The in-person part of an MBA was something that had really interested me at the beginning, I think, as it did many people. And I was disappointed knowing that it wouldn't be in person, because I was worried that I wouldn't necessarily be able to build those connections and have that, in-person group work. But what I think I was pleasantly surprised about is it's really the quality of the people, right? So whether you're on a screen speaking virtually or in person, that quality of who a person is does not get lost. And, I've had the opportunity to forge incredible relationships. And I think that every school, Concordia as well, had to, completely transform the way that they did things. So going straight to Zoom and doing that, it wasn't even hybrid at first, right? It was fully virtual. So I think that there were definitely challenges that needed to be overcome, but I think that they did a great job of doing that. I mean, it's also hard. You have professors who have been teaching for many years. How do you now tell them that they need to start using, Zoom? What is Zoom? A lot of people didn't even know what it was before the pandemic. So I think that they navigated it in the best way that they possibly could. And I think that for the students, at least for myself, the experience wasn't nearly as, a loss as I would have thought it would be in this virtual world. And I'm very grateful for the friendships that I've made. And these are people that are going to be friends far after the MBA as well. I think that the biggest advice that I would have for someone coming in first is to really think about what it is that they're looking for in pursuing graduate education, whether it's an MBA or anything else, to really think about what is it that I want to get out of this. And the reason I say that is because for me, being someone who came in academically with not much of a business background, being very HR focused, I also had a minor in communication. So it was really not quant oriented at all and business oriented. And for me, I felt that learning curve was very steep going into the MBA because I was taking certain classes that I had never taken before ever. So if you're someone who has a business background, perhaps you consider doing an EMBA or something that's maybe a jump ahead, because it might be material that you're very familiar with. And if you want to learn more, something new, you try something different. For me, I thought it was such a great experience because of that different background. So to just sum that up in a nutshell, I think I would really tell students to know what it is that they're looking for, and to really try to take that step into the MBA to complement the skills that they already have and build on that and develop new skills as well.